And I just had this feeling of like, I don't deserve to be happy in a marriage because I
Mm,
got divorced.
mm,
And it was living in my body, right? And where it was like probably 7 or 8 a.m. and we're gonna go to the courthouse and get married at 11. And I just was like this angry serpent around my heart, squeezing me of just
mm.
like, how dare you get a second at bat, you like undeserving little worm.
Wow. Hi, and welcome to Transparent with Tina, a holistic approach for mental, physical, and spiritual well being so you can become the best version of yourself. Hi, and welcome to Transparent with Tina. I am Tina Marx, your host. So, what if healing isn't about becoming someone new, but rather remembering who you were before the world told you who to be? Today's conversation is all about emotional healing, self trust, and coming home to yourself. I'm joined Liz Dubois Erskine. And together we're unpacking what it really takes to break old patterns, regulate your emotions, and step into true alignment. This is a powerful conversation that you guys do not want to miss. Welcome, Dr. Liz.
Thanks for having me, Tina.
So happy to have you here. I love this is my favorite topic. I mean, what we're going to be talking about today. So before we get into everything and my questions, how did you get in this line of work? And was there a defining moment that completely changed the direction of your life?
Yeah, 100%. Oh gosh, there's like a couple of different defining moments. I in chronological order, when I was 15, I was sexually assaulted, and that really defined how I felt about myself and how I felt about the world for a very long time. I gained about 100 pounds in the course of 2 years. I just really felt uncomfortable having a body that other
Mhm.
people could look at. And when I got into recovery for binge eating disorder and lost that weight the same weekend that I kind of like hit a size 4 and congratulations, you're skinny now, I realized what that experience had cost me. And after doing some really serious therapy for a couple weeks, I took a few weeks off work, and then continued in therapy, but not on a like, tri-weekly basis. And that I remember going back to my office. I had an office on K Street about 2 blocks from the White House, and I was in advertising and I had a big fancy computer. And I was just like, what am I even doing with my life? This just doesn't
How
matter.
how old were you then?
I was 24.
24. So this happened at 15 and this is okay.
Yeah, this was
Huh.
9 years later. And so I very quickly decided I was gonna work in nonprofits if I could sell advertising to big companies on the premise that they would scale their business. I could sell individuals on the idea that their donations would make a difference. And so I founded a consulting firm and I started raising money for nonprofits. And from there, my son's dad, who I was engaged to at the time, said, "You got to hunt with a bigger gun. You either got to get a law degree or a PhD." And he was in law school, and I thought, okay, we've got that one covered. So I had always dreamed about pursuing a PhD, but that was the moment I pulled the trigger. And then the next kind of defining changed my life moment was my son's dad and I were really not compatible.
Mhm.
And there was a night where things just really reached a head and I just felt this like very real, it was like a voice, if you will. Maybe that makes me sound crazy. But it was out the right side of my head and I just heard this voice that said, you're here to love people and you're spending your life trying to love someone that can't love you in the way that you deserve and that you can't love in the way that he deserves, right? And
Mhm.
that was a Thursday night, and Monday I hired an attorney and I was out.
Wow.
And that
And
that
that's now looking back, you know that that was your intuition, right?
I choose to think of it as my higher power.
Yeah.
I think that was my higher power, and I don't want to present that as like I made a decision to get a divorce in 4 days. I didn't. I made a decision to
Right.
get a divorce over the course of 3 years.
Mhm.
Um, but that moment of this is all coming together after 3 years of praying and therapy and all the things, like that was the moment where I was just like, okay, God is calling me to
How
the
old were
next
you
thing.
when you met him?
Um, I was 20 and he was 19.
So 5 years after this happened.
This was 14 years after we were together a long time. And I don't
Oh,
want to
okay.
harp on him. He's a great guy and
Yeah.
like my story related to him is his story too and I don't want to invade his privacy. But the you asked the question like what was the moment and that was the moment for
Right.
me.
And so the reason I asked that too was because, the choices you would make now in your life as opposed to then, because when you met him and married him, whatever, maybe you weren't fully healed.
And I the word healed is like such a difficult word. And again, like I don't want to even like speculate on that because again, like my story
Hmm.
in that moment was also his story and he deserves his privacy. And I respect him and, respect that, coming on a podcast and talking about my marriage with him is not fair to him.
Hmm. Okay. No, it was really more of a question about you, but that's
Oh,
fine.
sorry. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I shared with you, I'm my husband and I, my now husband and I, we got married in December, but we're having a wedding with all of our friends and family Saturday. And I just texted my maid of honor and I said, as anxious and stressed as I was, crying the night before my wedding when I got married the first time is
Hmm.
exactly how excited I am. And I was talking to my dad about it last night, and he said, sometimes our bodies just know better than our brains
Oh,
what's right
yeah.
for us.
Very true. Very true. Um, so what really helped you step into your authentic voice and stop like maybe seeking from exterior validation?
I mean, I think it was a lot of moments like that along the way where I just realized that I wasn't getting anything out of trying to play by the rules, so to speak. I wasn't benefiting, I wasn't helping people by trying to be buttoned up in a way that made other people look at me and go, "Oh, she's got it all together." Right? I like before we recorded, I showed you my dining room right now. It's like a
Yeah.
total like a wedding fiesta mess. And I live a life that doesn't look perfect anymore. And for a long time I really strove to um
Look like you had like everything was perfect, you're holding it all together.
Yeah, and the aspect of it that ties into leadership is this. I really thought that in order for other people to see me as credible, I had to have all my ducks in a row.
Hmm.
I was working with a client this mo morning who's quite a bit younger than me, and she was saying, my business doesn't look the way that it needs to in order for other people to take me seriously. And I said, well, you're a media consultant. Nobody needs your business to look perfectly. People need you to be great at being a media consultant. And
Hmm.
I was laboring under the delusion that if I didn't have every aspect of my life nailed down, looking perfect, size 4, tons of Botox, straight hair, like if I didn't have, the BMW in the driveway, or it was Mini Cooper made by BMW. I had a 5-bedroom house that I'd won an award for designing. Like I had all the things and I was absolutely miserable, right? And I have a very different version of all the things now. Um,
Hmm.
that
That maybe you didn't that's what the world taught you you should that's success and maybe now that's not really what you would desire in your life. Is that what you're saying?
100%. My
Uh-huh.
husband and I, we were walking and we have a inflatable hot tub in the backyard, very redneck, right? We were walking in having just had like naked time in the hot tub and we're walking through our garage and there's just like piles of projects everywhere. And I had this moment remembering my favorite books growing up were the Laura Ingalls Wilder books, the Little House on the
Oh, yeah,
Prairie.
yeah, yeah.
And I thought to myself, I was like, this is the life I always wanted, was to be like constantly in a progression of building the next thing. Like that's what I admired so much about those books was there was always a striving for that involved a lot of grit. And I didn't have that in my life because I was striving to be something polished and perfect. And I'm
Yes.
I'm just, I'm a cut off shorts kind of girl.
Right, right. Trying to fit the model of what you're supposed to look like. So, like,
100.
what beliefs did you have to break in order to evolve into the woman that you are today?
I think the big one was that I owed my parents something, especially my mom.
Mm,
I
hmm.
really felt like I owed my mom. me having gone further than she had gone, and that her hard work as a single mom meant that I also had to really struggle as a single mom. And
Right.
when I hired my first elite business coach, I said, I need you to help me break this belief that I have that single moms have to struggle. I had a business. Um, I was also working full time still in a law firm, and I just really could not get my income where it needed to be for me to step into business full time, which wasn't because I wanted to leave the law firm necessarily. It was that I had a 5-year-old and there was a pandemic and he was home
Hmm.
from school, right?
Right.
And I realized when I said to Paloma Lev, who I highly recommend if you're looking for someone to work with in this kind of arena, um, I said, I really fundamentally believe that I'm disrespecting my mom if I start to just have a bunch of money that's really easy to make, and that it um will in some way dishonor how hard it was for her if
Oh,
I'm just
I see.
like,
Because
oh,
your mom was a struggling. Okay.
yeah, my
Okay.
mom was struggling so hard as we were being raised. And so like, who am I to suddenly like, my son wants for his birthday, which is tomorrow, he wants to go kayaking with his godmother on Friday when she comes into town for the wedding. And, it's no skin off my ass to be like, okay, I'm going to reserve a kayak and you're going to take the paid off Grand Cherokee to drive there. And, there's no hustle in it. There's no struggle. You know
Was
what I mean?
that, was it something maybe that did your mom ever imply that, or is it just something you came up with?
I think it's something that I came up with
Hmm.
was that I really wanted to honor how difficult
Hmm.
it had been for her, and to suddenly have, not I'm not at a place where I have fuck you money yet, but I have money that I can go kayaking on the same week that I take my kid out to Outback Steakhouse, that I have a wedding, right?
Yeah, right,
Like
right.
all
Yeah,
those things in one
yeah.
week doesn't break me.
Hey guys, okay, let's talk skincare. For most of my adult life, I had a hate relationship with my skin. I struggled with adult acne, discoloration, large pores, psoriasis, and fine lines. I swear, all that changed when I started using herbal face food. I mean, this stuff is powerful. We're talking the world's most potent antioxidant and anti blemish formula. And the serum is the number one anti aging serum in the world, made entirely from 100% botanical plants. No chemicals, no synthetics, 100% all natural. Whether you're dealing with fine lines, dark spots, sun damage, rosacea, psoriasis, melasma, or just want that all day healthy glow, Herbal Face Food has your skin covered. Literally. I've been using all their products for 3 years now, and let me tell you, it's like green juice for your face, only stronger. Remember, whatever you put on your skin goes in your body. So, this is a really important point here, seeing that it's 100% all natural. Give it a try. It's got a 100% money back guarantee, no questions asked. You can check them out at herbalfacefood.com. Use promo code TINA20 for 20% off your entire order. That's herbalfacefood.com because your skin deserves the
Break me.
best. Yeah, but I think it was probably the opposite impact for your mom. I bet she was like, "Wow, I must have done something right because, she's breaking a generational pattern, so to speak, right?
I,
Doesn't
yeah, I
happen
mean,
every day."
I have no idea. It's something that I have a hard time being emotionally honest with some of the people in my life
Hmm.
who, um, my path has looked really different then. And
Hmm.
there's just not a lot of space for like genuine conversation beyond this is what's going on in my life and kind of here's where it's at. And I've really done, I think, a good job of cultivating relationships where I know I can be very open about who I am and what I'm struggling with, and allowing that to be enough, right? Not needing somebody to be someone they're not.
Right, exactly. I want to talk a little bit about nervous system regulation
Sure.
because I honestly think that is the gateway to everything. If your nervous system is like, I had an episode yesterday, and at least I have the knowledge now to like piece it together, right?
Hmm.
So I'm an empath and an HSP, so I'm feeling people's emotions a lot.
Right.
And my son was struggling with two major things this weekend. And then yesterday, and then yeah, yesterday he comes in. Somebody had keyed my car, and yeah, it. I'm glad you had that reaction because I was really pounding on myself last night because I, I was traumatized.
Yeah.
And you know what? Who I think it was? Because there was only two places I was at yesterday, at the gym, and then I went to the gas station. I went inside. There was a guy that was standing out there with his dog. He looked homeless. I didn't see his face. His back was towards me. So I walked by him and I made a mental note when I came back out, I was going to give him money, right? So I come back out and he's standing like look in front of my car, like with his back towards me, looking at my car. And I said, hey, whatever. And he turned around and he was obviously on something, right?
Right.
His eyes were bugging out. And I gave him the money and he looked so surprised. And he was like, oh, thank you. And I kept turning this over in my mind all night long. Like how I think that's who had to have been. And it just really, I can't really explain it. I mean, it almost, it felt like such a violation.
Yeah,
And
I was about to say a violation.
oh my God. And just like, my nervous system is the most important thing for me to keep that intact because, I've been in survival mode most of my life. But it's things like this that it's like, oh my God, when it takes over, like it did last night, it was like it was the
Mhm.
icing on the cake. If the other things had not been happening over the weekend, it might have been something different, right? So, can you share with us like some of your practices of how you regulate?
Yeah, absolutely. So first, I just want to caveat quickly, I'm not a medical doctor. So as I talk about nervous system regulation and all these sorts of things, and I'm Dr. Liz, I'm not Dr. Liz, the medical doctor. So just a
Right,
quick like highlight
right.
there. Um, my big practice around this is tapping, emotional freedom technique.
Yes.
People come from all over the world to be in my Zoom room to tap with me. It's really kind of my claim to fame. So for me, that can look a lot like quickly tapping in the car if I'm on my way to somewhere and I just like realize I need to kind of go from like a 3 to a 7 emotionally
Yeah.
and that brings me up really high. Or something like the day that my husband and I got married. We got married at the courthouse. We knew we wanted to get married before the end of the year, and then we'd have like a wedding later on. Um, and I just had this feeling of like, I don't deserve to be happy in a marriage because I
Mm,
got divorced. And
mm.
it was living in my body, right? And where it was like probably 7 or 8 a.m. and we're gonna go to the courthouse and get married at 11. And I just was like this angry serpent around my heart, squeezing me of just
Mm.
like, how dare you get a second at bat, you like undeserving little worm.
Wow.
And it was so palpable in my body of just like, I don't deserve to be happy in this because like I had failed somehow the first time and yada 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 yada, right? And dating someone for the first time right before you turn 40 is very different than dating someone when you're 3 months past being 20 years old. It just
Oh,
like
absolutely.
20, right? And anyway, all of that to say, my body was really feeling this very um tangible sense of I don't deserve. Um,
Hmm.
and I sat on the sofa and I just tapped that shit out for about 30 minutes. And by the time
Oh,
I was
that
done,
long. So
oh my,
you just do it until it goes away.
I do it until I stop having things to say to
So
myself.
my
So the
doctor
way
says
that
that
I
we
do,
don't die from old age, we die from inflammation. And I couldn't agree more. When I found him a couple of years ago, I was not in great shape. I had a lot of anxiety, a lot of depression, and he found out it was all related to my gut. Did you know that 90% of your dopamine and 90% of your serotonin are made in your gut? Okay. So I have been on all of his products ever since that day. But the ones that I want to talk to you about are the alkalizers. He's got one for coffee and he's got one for alcohol. What do? They make the beverage from acidic to alkaline, which is so important because if your body is too acidic, it is a breeding ground for disease. So you want to keep your body in an alkaline balance. So with the coffee, it comes either for black coffee or it comes flavored as a creamer. I love the flavored ones. Vanilla is my favorite, but I also love the hazelnut. They're all delicious. One scoop, and it does not break your fast for one. It changes your body, your coffee from acidic to alkaline, which you don't have to feel guilty about drinking coffee anymore. And the one for alcohol does the same thing. 5 drops into any alcoholic beverage, and it will make it from acidic to alkaline, meaning no hangover. It doesn't change the taste, it doesn't change the color, and best of all, it doesn't change the buzz. You can still drink and enjoy yourself, all the while knowing that you're not causing inflammation in your body. So go to www.getoffyouracid.com and use the promo code Tina Marks
Myself.
20.
So the way that I do it is I combine kind of the theory of energy meridians that we get, right? We're tapping on these acupressure points and we're allowing different sensations to move through our body. At the same time, I'm using principles of cognitive behavioral therapy where I'm saying the cognitive distortion, some people call it a limiting belief. I think that's probably a little
Mm-hmm,
less
mm-hmm.
nuanced than it needs to be.
Yes.
Um, so I'm saying the cognitive distortion, right? You don't deserve this because you already did it once and it didn't work.
And you're
And
saying that as you're tapping on certain
I'm
parts.
saying that as I'm tapping. So I'm saying
Right.
all the stuff like, you don't deserve this, you selfish whore. How dare you believe? And so I'm saying all of this. And then there's a moment, and once I kind of feel like that, like towel's been wrung out, say, and even though I feel this way, I'm ready to let this go. And at that point, that's when I kind of start to sow the seeds of
I see.
positive things, right? Like I'm allowed to have more than one chance at my life. I'm allowed to be in a state of learning all the time, right? And
Right.
so instead of saying these affirmations of like, I'm worthy and deserving, I wasn't there yet, right? I had to build to that place. And sometimes that takes 3 minutes, and sometimes it takes 30, and sometimes I'll tap for an hour if I'm really activated in some way. I deserve that space, and so I give it to myself.
Absolutely. You clarified something for me because I've heard that about tapping, and and I've done it myself. I've gone along with it, and I'm going, why am I tapping something that maybe it's true, like, oh, you're a selfish whore, this or that. I'm like, God, isn't that programming your subconscious mind? Because they say your brain is always listening, but it makes sense. You have to do that to get to the other layer because your brain's going to know you're lying if you're going, oh, I know I'm so deserving or whatever. It's probably not going to allow that. So
Right.
that's great. Now, you said on your group calls or group Zooms that you're known for that?
I do an in-person thing. Hang on, I want to draw out something really important that you said.
Okay.
So your brain is always listening, but your brain is always like aware too, right? So if you say I'm deeply deserving of a happy marriage, but deep down inside you feel like you're a big loser because you got a divorce, you're gaslighting yourself. Right?
Yes.
And so
Yes.
what you're doing is you're saying to that small little girl who's already suffering, you're saying, you don't even know what you're talking about, you stupid little bitch. Right?
Ah,
And
oh,
so we want to validate that part and say, I see you. The same way if you're sitting
right.
across from your best friend, right? And she's saying, I don't deserve to get married again and be happy because I got divorced. You would never say to her, you're worthy and deserving and you're crazy for thinking that. You would say, I see where you're at and I
I
can
love that.
understand what you're going through. And I just want to validate your feelings. And also, I want to present an alternative reality here, right?
Right, right. So let me ask you a question. Are you thinking of I mean, obviously the first part when you're saying, I'm not, I don't feel deserving, I feel selfish, or whatever. Then the next part, are you just what's ever coming into your
Yeah.
head? Oh, I see. That's how it works. So you don't have to like look up a script or anything like that, right?
People
Just
do
kind of,
that.
mm-hmm,
People do that for me. Like I think this is where kind of training meets technique meets innate talent, right? Like I've
mm-hmm,
trained to do
mm-hmm,
this. There's techniques that I've learned, but then on top of that, I happen to be very, very good at this. And
mm-hmm,
so for me, what I'm doing is like I will sit down and I will kind of measure out on a number of different indexes, kind of like where you're at, right? Like you're 2 out of 7 worthy, you're 6 out of 7 trusting that this can change.
mm-hmm.
And I can tell from those things where it is that this is stuck. So if you feel very worthy, but it feels very unsafe to pursue it, I know I have to work with you on safety versus if you feel very safe pursuing
Mm.
something, but you feel very unworthy, I know I need to work with you on fundamentally like how you see yourself. And so what I'm doing then is I'm asking you deeper and deeper questions about it, and then I'm using that as my script back. So if you say, I feel like an undeserving person, I'll say, I feel like an undeserving person, right? And then I'll draw that out as I kind of like have a greater sense of what's going on. Because the more that I'm speaking different phrases, the
Yes.
more I'm understanding the layers to it.
I see.
Does
Right.
that make
Because
sense?
you're right there with them.
Right, exactly. So you might say, I feel undeserving. And if I know in your background that, your parents really struggled financially, right?
Mhm.
I'm going to be able to say, I feel really undeserving. The good things that come to me in my life, I have to work really hard. And I worked really hard for my first marriage and it fell apart. And therefore, I'm unworthy of having this, right? Because I know that some of your trauma is tied to having watched your parents struggle really hard. And so if
Right.
there was a failure, there was a lot of shame in that, not just failure's part of success, like let's go. Does this
Right.
make
Right.
sense?
Yes. Yes. That totally makes sense. So is this a huge part of your one-on-one coaching? Is that
Huge,
it is? So like
huge.
90%, it sounds like it.
I would say at least 90%. That's probably a little low.
Oh, really? So
Yeah. Mhm.
99%.
Yeah, people sign up to do this with me specifically
Right.
for this, right?
This is your area of expertise. This is
Right. So people come to me because of tapping and they're interested in the techniques. They come to me because they're in leadership and their past sexual assaults have made it difficult for them to feel safe being visible.
okay.
And people come to me because I worked for Disney and iHeartRadio and advertising, and I really know what I'm doing around that area.
Right, right. I remember that. Yeah, I read that in your bio. Um, you also say you're a conflict analysis, right?
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
using your background as a conflict analysis, you use methods like the blooming onion to help clients identify the root causes of professional fears and internal blocks. Can you share
Yep.
a little bit about that?
Sure. So my PhD is in conflict analysis and resolution. I don't love throwing the resolution in there because I don't think conflicts resolve. I think they evolve. I think that we have
Uh,
to understand the roots of a conflict in order for us to understand where we're at, right? Like we can't fully understand our relationship with Great Britain right now unless we understand that our country was founded on the fact that we broke up with them,
mhm.
right? Like
Right, right.
there's roots of how what's that phrase? Like the best way to predict the future is to look at history.
Yeah.
Um, so as a conflict analyst, I really believe in seeing conflicts as something that don't get resolved. They simply change in their form. And I
Can you
think that
give
we
us an example?
I mean, I think what's going on right now politically is really interesting in terms of that example, right? Like we have a lot of different cultural disparities that are coming to the fore that if we look at 50, 60, 100 years ago had similar elements, but they've become so exaggerated that we can't even talk about them right now. And I think that we're kind of repeating patterns that we've already experienced as a country, but we're doing it in like new and creative ways because we always try to come up with new and creative ways to be in conflict with people.
Right, right. Um,
Does that make sense?
yeah, it does. It does.
I can talk about the bloomin' onion if you
Yeah,
want.
please tell
Okay.
me about
So,
the
so
yeah.
that's a technique I came up with. So if you've been to Outback Steakhouse, which is my son's favorite place, we went there
Yeah,
last night and had a bloomin' onion, right? So you take this one onion and you cut it in, you allow its individual layers to fall open, and you're just like, this is so freaking huge. Are you
yeah,
kidding? This is
yeah.
just one onion, right? And so if you take a conflict, right? Let's say how you feel about yourself, you feel unworthy of moving from a 10K month to a 40K month, right? And you just like fundamentally can't handle the concept of having that much money at one time come into your bank account, right? So what I do is I say, okay, fundamentally the issue is you want to make $30,000 more, right? That's the surface issue. So
Okay.
what if we pull it back and we say, well, what does it mean about you that you're not making that money yet, right? Well, it means that I'm not, I don't have the right lead gen situation. Okay, so if that's true, we peel it back. What does it
Uh,
mean about you? Like, what does it mean about you? What's wrong with you that you don't have a good lead gen situation? Well, it's because I'm disorganized, right? Okay. What does it mean about you that you're disorganized? Okay. What does it mean about you that you have ADHD and you have to look at all the things and can't find your pen that you put down 10 seconds ago, right? Okay. If that's true, what does it mean about you, right? And so we
Yeah.
come to the root of the issue, which is almost never related
What
at the
the
surface.
starting point was,
Right,
right?
exactly, exactly. So, so we're just pulling it back, and instead of saying what's the limiting belief, we're saying what is it that you've internalized, the story that you're telling yourself about who you are and why you can't have this thing.
Right. Is that a particular technique? Like, for some reason, I'm thinking somatic. Is that
Well,
like, is it like to the questions? Is it like a particular technique, or is it something that you created, or?
yeah, well, somatic means in your body,
Right.
right? So if we're tapping, right, and we can do like the Bloomin', what I would do, right? Let's say that you want to make the best cheeseburger ever, right? You want to go on Bobby Flay, beat Bobby Flay, and that is your goal, right? And I would be saying, well, what does it mean about you that you haven't done that yet? Well, it means that I don't know how to shop for the right ingredients. Okay, well, what if that's true? What does that mean about you? It means that I never learned how to garden, whatever, right? I'm
Right.
just using a simple, silly example because it's easier than like a deep, than in-depth one that people are going to be like, that's me. I don't want to like trigger anybody here. Um, I'll do the bloom and onion with you, and then we'll tap through it. I'll say, I
Oh, once you
suck.
get to the root.
Yeah, exactly. And so we'll tap all the surface things. I suck at grocery shopping. Everything I do is wrong when I look at the green peppers, whatever, right? And we put all the way back and we'll say, and even though I feel this way, even though this feels really true. So the somatic work comes in the body, right? When we incorporate how the body is feeling, not what this frontal lobe is feeling.
Exactly. And you know what? I love the fact you keep saying to the root, because in
Hmm.
so many practices, it's not getting to the root. It's treating the symptom, and it
Yep,
keeps coming
100%.
back and it keeps coming back. So if I were to work with you on a
Hmm.
one-on-one, right?
Yeah.
Uh, let's say I've got money blocks. I'm just picking anything. I've
Hmm.
got a lot of blocks, but uh, what would that look like? How long do most of your clients work with you before they
Hmm.
see transformation? Is it ongoing, or how does it work?
Yeah. So first off, you don't have blocks. Your biggest block is that you're telling yourself you have a block, and that there's some reason you can't have this, and that you're being blocked from it. That's not true. The only thing that's happening is you're telling yourself a story, and that story is rooted in some sort of cognitive distortion about
Yeah.
why you're not ready to have what you want, right? And so this idea of blocks becomes an impediment
You're
unto
no, you're
itself.
absolutely right. And I think I know. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. So people start to feel better after one session is like the short answer. People feel a tremendous amount of relief in just one session. I've had people do discovery calls with me and I've said on the spot, like, we're just gonna stop talking about this in a broad sense and we're just gonna tap this out right now. And on the spot, they'll say, I feel like I went from a 1 out of 10 to a 10 out of 10. How do I sign with you? Here's $10,000, right? And that's like not an aberration. That's something that happens on a somewhat regular basis because people feel better so quickly. Um, because
Well,
what
and
we're
it makes sense, because if they basically are getting out of their own way, reconnecting with their true self, then they can accomplish whatever they want. But if not, and you're being held back by these limiting beliefs, right? I mean, I
Mhm.
think it's like most people would do anything if they were ill to feel healthy again. Same thing, but it's just in your mind, which
Well,
is,
in your body too. I remember
yeah,
working
yeah.
with a guy who just had this buzzing anxiety. He wanted to scale his business. He does back-end business services and yeah, helping companies with like their databases and CRMs and stuff. And he just had this buzzing anxiety in his chest is how he described it. And we tapped right there on the discovery call and he said, it's gone. It's gone. I can't believe it's gone. Right. And like he hadn't changed anything in terms of how he was thinking about his business. He changed how he was thinking about himself in regards to his business and what he was allowed to achieve. And so he felt better.
Right, right. So how long does somebody on average work with you? How many sessions would that be usually? Because I
I
would think after a while they can kind of do this themselves, right?
Yeah, 100%. Most people start with me for 3 months. So I work with people in either, I'll do a 1 month intensive if it's just about marketing, right? We're not going any deeper than how to market your product correctly.
Hmm.
Um, so that's a 1 month intensive in general. People do executive coaching with me for 3 months. And then if the issue is really rooted in like deep trauma will generally kick into 6 months. And then I have some people that stay with me indefinitely and they meet with me once a month and we kind of do the things that we need to do and then off they go and I see them again in a month and we do the things we need to do and that's not uncommon.
Right. And that's what, meeting them once a week usually.
Yeah, the initial lift is once a week. Yeah.
Okay. All right. And so, all right. So you can find all this information on your website, which is just your name, Dr. Liz Dubois. And then your last name is spelled Erskine. So it's
Yep. Yeah. And the easier way to get to me now that I've gotten married and have two last names is
oh
just
yeah.
coachdrliz.com.
Oh, okay, perfect. CoachDrLiz.com. And you are offering a promo code today of 20% off to our listeners.
Yeah.
And the promo code is Tina. So if you guys mention that, then you guys can get 20% off, which is fantastic. And I think I'm going to take myself up on your offer too, because
Good.
it's
Let's do
really,
it.
yeah, I've always been interested in this. I know I talk about ADD. I have 4 out of 7 different kinds. And I even was looking, I bought a course years and years and years ago, and I didn't get all the way through it. So I have been interested for a long time. But anyways, all right, you guys. Well, thanks for joining us this week. This was a great conversation. I hope you guys got a lot out of it. Thank you, Dr. Liz, for being here with me. And you have a wonderful wedding on Saturday. I know it's
Thank
going to be
you.
fantastic all next week, and you all have a powerful week, and we'll see you next time.
All right, go kick ass, everybody.
That's right.